Daf Kuf Chaf Aleph Amud Aleph, 3 lines from the top. We're in the middle of the sugya. We were discussing in a case where a person had the Shem Hashem written on his body, and he has a tefillas mitzvah. The Chum say that he wraps a gemi, a reed grass, around the Shem, and he's taivel. Where Rav Yosi says that it's not necessary. The way we explained it previously was that they both hold that a groma to be garam, if it's indirectly causing the Shem to be erased, is not an issue. Now, the reason that the Chum say you have to be kairech the gemi is because you can't have the Shem Hashem exposed to his uncovered body. And if he would cover with his hand, they were afraid that he would remove his hand. So therefore, they say that cover it with the reed grass. Rav Yosi says if the gemi is readily available, he should cover it with the gemi. But if it's not readily available, rely on covering with his hand. What is the basis of the machlokes? The Gemara explained that the Chachamim hold that tefillah b'zman is lav mitzvah. So therefore, if he has to delay the tefillah in order to find the gemi, so be it. It's better to do that and ensure that the Shem Hashem is covered. Whereas Rav Yosi holds that tefillah b'zman is a mitzvah, and therefore he should not delay the tefillah, and rather, b'soymech, rely on having his hand cover the name. Is it so that Rav Yosi holds tefillah b'zman a mitzvah? Tanya we learn in the Brisa. Azava, Amitzaira, Amitzairas, Boil Nida, Utami Meis. In all of these cases, tefillah b'yom. In all of these cases, if the 7th day of their tahar, of their purification, they need 7 days, 7 clean days. If the 7th day, on the 7th day already, they can be toivel, because we apply the principle of mixas hayom kekula, that part of the day is considered like the complete day. So once they've entered into the 7th day, they don't have to wait till nightfall. They can be already toivel on the 7th day. But nida v'yoleres filosim b'layla. But in the cases of nida and yoleres, where we say vatin nidosa alav, that we need complete 7 days of tahara. Therefore, they have to wait till the nighttime, till nightfall. They cannot be toivel during the daytime. Baal keri toivel v'hoyle kol hayom kula. A baal keri can be toivel v'hoyle kol hayom kula. Now, in the case of baal keri, he can be toivel the whole day. Which day are we talking about that he can be toivel the whole day? So we're talking in this context over here about on Yom Kippur. If the day of tefillah comes out on Yom Kippur, now on Yom Kippur, normally you can't wash on Yom Kippur. But if there's a tefillas mitzvah to be done, then you can wash on Yom Kippur. You can rather be toivel, not wash. You can be toivel on Yom Kippur if there's a tefillas mitzvah. So in the cases of the Zava and Zava, etc., if they have a case of on Yom Kippur where the 7th day is Yom Kippur, they can be toivel because it's a mitzvah. And if they needed to eat truma, if they're kohanim, they need to eat truma at night, they can be toivel. A baal keri has a mitzvah to be toivel because Takanas Ezra, it was also for him to learn or daven without tefillah. Now, therefore, he can be toivel on Yom Kippur, and the tefillah of a baal keri is in the daytime. So, therefore, the Tanakhama says he's toivel kol yom kula, the entire day of Yom Kippur. He can be toivel. Rav Yosi, min mincha l'mala, and tzarach litfol. But Rav Yosi says min mincha l'mala, after mincha time, he doesn't have to be toivel. He doesn't have to be toivel because he has no more tefillah. The tefillah of ne'ilah he holds can be done at night, and Marav is done at night, and in a case where he doesn't have truma to eat, so therefore there's no reason that he's b'toivel min mincha l'mala. So therefore he says min mincha eino tzorach litfol. The Chacham say he is toivel. What's the source of the machlokes, whether you're toivel or not? If you hold that tefillah b'zman is a mitzvah, so therefore even in a mincha l'mala, you say he should be toivel, because even though he doesn't have a tefillah to be to daven, and even if he doesn't have truma to eat at night, the etzem tefillah at its proper time, at the first time that's available, he should be toivel. It's a mitzvah, so therefore it's considered a tefillah of mitzvah. It's not considered a rachitz of tanug, and therefore it's mutar on Yom Kippur. The Chachamim hold that we say tefillah bizmana is a mitzvah, and therefore he can be toivel. Rav Yosi says mina mincha l'mala ain't it tzarech because tefillah bizmana is lav mitzvah. So don't we see over here that Rav Yosi holds that tefillah bizmana is not a mitzvah, and therefore mina mincha l'mala ain't it tzarech. You don't have to be toivel. Now there's a machlokes in the Rishonim if he says ain't it tzarech, you don't have to be toivel, or you're not allowed to be toivel. Some hold that with the gear saying at Tzarech that he doesn't have to, but it's still permitted because it's not considered tefillah being toivel of a tanug. But I'll call him, you see, the Rav Yosi holds that tefillah bizmana is not a mitzvah, and therefore min mincha l'mala in Tzarech. More answers. Hahi Rav Yosi Rav Yehudi the Amra Daya tefillah b'achrayna. The case of the Brisa, referring to the case min mincha l'mala in Tzarech. That's Rav Yosi Rav Yehuda. It's not Rav Yosi of our Mishnah, it's Rav Yosi Rav Yehuda, and he holds that tefillah bizmana is not a mitzvah. If you have a case over there by a woman who miscarried, she was not sure if she miscarried a zochar or a nekeva, a male or a female. She was also not sure if she miscarried, if she was a zov at the time, and she was also not sure exactly when the event took place. So therefore, there's all kinds of possible tefillahs that could happen. If you hold tefillah b'zman mitzvah, then you say that tefillah has to take place at the first available opportunity. So now, if she miscarried, it was a zochar, a yoledes has to wait 7 days after a zochar, and then she's toivel. So then she would be toivel after the 7th day, the night after the 7th day. If she was also a zova at the time, then she has to wait to the 14th day. But like we said before, a zova, she can be toivel during the day. So it's the day of the 14th day. If it was a girl, then for giving birth or even miscarrying a girl, it's a 14-day period. So she would have to be toivel in the night after the 14th day. And if she was a zava, she would also have to wait 7 days after that and be toivel the following 7 days later, the daytime of the 21st day. Now she doesn't know when she gave birth. So there's all kinds of possibilities, and as the Gemara works out, there's a possible 35 possibilities that she'd be toivel. And if you hold tefillah zman mitzvah, then she would have to be toivel each and every one of those. But Rav Yosi Rav Yehuda says it's not necessary because at the end of the day, she's not going to be, she won't have her tara until the last one. So there's no point. There's no chiyuv of being toivel of all of these cases because seif kol seif, she's not going to have her tara until the very end. So daya, it's enough tefillah b'achrayna to have the last tefillah. So you see that Rav Yosi Rav Yehuda says that tefillah b'zman is lav mitzvah, and that is the Rav Yosi that it's referring to in the Brisa as far as the Baal Keri Yom Kippur. But our Tana Rav Yosi holds that tefillah b'zman is a mitzvah. Sagt the Mishnah, Nachri Shabbat l'chava is if there's a fire and a guy wants to put out the fire, you don't tell him to do it. You don't have to tell him not to do it, but you're not allowed to tell him to do it. You don't have to stop him, but you can't tell him to do it either. Because you don't have a chiyuv of his shvisa is not upon you. You're not obligated to ensure that he rests on Shabbos. So therefore, you don't have a chiyuv to restrain him. But if it's a cotton, a child, a yid, then you have to stop him because because you have a responsibility to make sure that he keeps Shabbos. As far as a fire, they were mounted to say, anyone who's mechaber that is addressing a nachri, if anybody puts out the fire, he won't lose out. They allowed him in that language. So if he does it, he's doing it midaita. Rabbi Kiva has a shaila, can you address the goy directly and say, If you're mechaber, you won't be mafsid. Here it's a general statement. It says, kol mechaber and a mafsid. Anyone who puts it out won't lose out. Can you address the goy directly and say, if you're mechaber, you won't be mafsid? That's a shame. Name a Messiah. Let's bring a raya to this halacha Ravami, because the Mishnah says, if a Nochri wants to put it out, you don't stop him, you don't instruct him, but you don't stop him. So you're not responsible, and therefore you don't have to restrain him. So einam like kaveh, you don't tell him to do it, but you don't stop him either. So kavehu lo yamin. So let's make a diuk that you don't tell him to put out the fire. Kavehu lo yamin. Ha kol mechabein mafsid armin. So let us be medayik, however, but to say not directly to put it out, but kol mechabein mafsid, that you could tell him. So let's bring a riot to Ravami's din. The Gemara says no. Ema seifa al techabe lo yamin. Yes, we say you can't say al techabe lo yamin. You don't have to restrain him. So you don't tell them. You don't have to tell them. Don't put out the fire. But which would be al tachabe lo yamrin, and but therefore make a diuk al tachabe. You don't have to tell them. You don't have to tell them not to be. But chol mechabein mafsid, you also can't tell them that either. When the Mishnah is matered, it says you don't have to restrain them. You don't have to tell them don't put it out, which is mashma that, but anything that is more than that, you cannot do. So isn't that mashma that kol mechabein mafsid lo yamrin lo? Elamah like la mashma, you cannot make a diuk one way or the other from the Mishnah. Ton Rabbanon, Maisa ben Afla Deleka b'Chatzer. So Yosef ben Simoy b'Shich, and there was a Maisa where the fire broke out in the Chatzer, the courtyard of Yosef ben Simoy in Shich and Ubo Anshe Gisra Shal Tzipori, and the troops, the men that were belonging to the ruler of Tzipori came Lachavas to put out the fire. So why did they come to do this special toiva for him? Because Yosef ben Simoy was the custodian of the ruler, so he sent his men to put out the fire, and it was on Shabbos. And he didn't allow him to put out the fire for Kavod Shabbos. However, there was a great naze, and the rain started to fall, and it put out the fire. And as a reward for coming and trying to help to put out the fire, that after Shabbos he sent each one of the men 2 slaim as a payment, to the captain 50 slaim. But the Chacham heard about what he did. It was not necessary. He could have allowed them to put out the fire. We learned in the Mishnah, a Nochri that comes to put out the fire, you don't instruct him to put it out, but you don't restrain him either. So he didn't instruct him over here. He didn't have to stop them. So, lo tzorach leka. But if a cotton comes to put out the fire, then you don't allow him. You have to stop him. Because you're responsible for the shvisa, for the cotton, to ensure that he doesn't do malach on Shabbos. Let us learn out from here that a cotton that is eating nevela, which is also that besin is mitzvah lav lavrisha, they have to stop him. Now Taisus is medayik over here, and he points out that this din of cotton, eichel nevela, is besin mitzvah lavrisha, has only been isur deraisa. The previous halacha that we had before by a nochri, that you're not allowed to tell the nochri to put out the fire. Amir le-nochri is a shuz, telling a nochri to do the malacha is a shuz, and even if it's only isur d'Rabbanan, it's still awesome. However, he holds that by the cotton, they're only mitzvah level hafrisha to restrain him if in isur d'Oraisa. Now, generally, kiboy, we would hold that it's an isur d'Rabbanan. You're putting out the fire not because you're doing it for a positive constructive purpose, it's only so it doesn't cause damage. Normally that would be considered malach shein tzricha legufa, and if we hold like Rav Shimon that it's a potter, there's no isur d'Oraisa involved over here. So Taisa says either that we're going according to Rabbi Yehuda, the Malach Shein Tzrich L'Guf Chayiv, or we're talking a case where he wants to create a coal, and there, by putting out the fire, he's creating something. He's creating the coal. That's a Malach Shein Tzrich L'Gufa, and it would be also deraisa. I'll call upon him. Let's learn midayik from here that a katan oich nevels bezer mitzvah lafrishaim amar Rabbi Yochanan bekatan ois l'das aviv. We're talking in a case where he's doing l'das aviv. He sees that his father, he wants him to do it, that he has the approval of his father, and he's therefore doing it because he wants to carry out his father's wishes. So therefore, in such a case, that's why it's also because he's doing it on his father's behalf. So there's different ways of understanding what the Yisr is over here. One way of understanding it is considered therefore as if the father told him to do it, meaning since he has the tacit approval of his father, it's as if the father is telling him to do it. And you're not allowed to tell him to do it. So therefore, in this case over here, that even without telling him, it's like telling him. So the Meforshim Medai, well, if that's the case, it doesn't even have to be by a father and a son necessarily, even if it's not a son. If it's the child is doing it because he wants to carry out the wishes of the adult, and it's like the adult is telling him to do it, then that would be also regardless. Others learn it because the father has a special chiyuv to ensure that bincha, that their Torah says that loisas komalach, and it says bincha, that you have to make sure that your son doesn't do it. And over here, therefore, if he observes that the father observes the son, he has to restrain him. Therefore, this in that case it would apply specifically to the son, and if that's the pshat, it would apply to the son and not to others. Well, in a similar case, we're contrasting, Mishnah is contrasting the son to the Nachri. Well, in a similar case by the Nachri, it would also therefore have to be talking in a case where the Nachri sees that the Yisrael wants him to do it. Well, if he has the tacit approval of the Yisrael, shouldn't that be also by a Nachri? Also, isn't that considered like he's doing it because the Yisrael is instructing him to do it? Wouldn't that be also a shvuz? Mora says, no, Nachli daited nafshe of it. The Nachri Sof Kol Soif is doing it because he wants to do it. Now, he sees that Yisrael, as he has the approval of Yisrael, in Sof Kol Soif, he's doing it because he wants to do it. He thinks he's going to get some gain from it, some benefit from it. It's not considered like the Yisrael told him to do it, and it's not included in the Isser D'Rabbanan of Amir L'Nochri Yishus. Zot the Mishnah Kaifim Kara Gabe Haner Bishul Shlitachos B'Kaira. You can take a kara, a bowl, and put it on top of the lamp and the fire so that it doesn't catch on to the beams and start a fire and ignite the beams and burn the house. Rashi says that it's a Kaifim Kara Shel Cheres. It's made out of clay. So here the Mishnah says it's mutter to put it over, and it's not considered to do that you're doing an Isser B'Dovar. You're just preventing the fire from catching on. Rashi says, it's specifically clay, but if it would be metal, then it would be also, because that would be considered Havora. The fire, the flame, would be considered to be igniting the metal and causing it to burn. The cheres doesn't catch on, it doesn't ignite, so it's not Havora. But if it would be matches, then it would be awesome. So you're allowed to turn over the bowl so that the nair does not catch on and ignite the fire in the house. Val shel cotton, you can put it over shel cotton, val akra shloi tishach, and on a scorpion so that it doesn't bite. You're allowed to do these things. These things are considered a mutter, and you're allowed to do it for these purposes. But Amar Yehuda Masechet if Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai ba'arev Amar Chayshana lo mechatos, but Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai says no, that it's also Chayshana lo mechatos, that it's considered to be Isser to do these in this manner, to do it in this manner. So what's the chatos over here? So The way to explain this, Mephoshim explained this machloikis in different ways. Now, number one is when we say al akrav shlit tishach, we're not talking when there's sakonas nefashos from the scorpion. Then, of course, it would be mutter. But we're talking about there's no sakonas nefashos. So the Tanna Kama says that it's mutter to do it, and even though he's a seda for the akrav, I say he's now trapping the akrav. There is seda involved, but one way of learning is it's a malach shein tzricha l'gufa. He doesn't want the akrav, and some malach shein tzricha would normally be an ism d'rabbanan, and here mishum tsar, on account of the tsar, they were matter. That's one approach, and therefore Rav Yochanan Zakkai holds that malach shein tzricha l'gufa is chayiv. So there's a isser d'oraisa, and mishum tsar you can't be matter, and isser d'oraisa v'bikuch nefashos you can, not mishum tsar. The other way of learning it is that talking by an akrav, that perhaps it's not b'minoi. The question is it b'minoi nitzaid or not? Is it something that's normally considered that you trap? And the Tanna Kama holds that we're talking either in a situation, or he holds that the akrav is not considered minoi nitzaid, and therefore it's not an Isser D'Oraisa, and therefore Mishum Tsar Hitir. Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai said no, there could be an Isser Chatas involved, and Chaysh Mechatas, because it's questionable, this could be considered a Dover Sheminoi Nitzaid.